مرحبا جميعا هون بالقاعة وبالمتابعين أونلاين.
Hello, everybody here, the participants here in this room and over Zoom. Of course, you might have read their work and use their tools. Perhaps you don't know them. Let me introduce them to you. First, Sarah Abdallah from IGNet Arabic Editor Mentoring Center Program Manager, Ali Ibrahim, investigative journalist and founder of Siraj from Syria, and Hala Nasruddin from Lebanon, head of investigative unit at Daraj Media institution. Sarah, you at IGNet, what are the tools and the material you provide and how do you deal with? Thank you, Hadil, for this introduction. And of course, I would like to introduce Hadil to you because she had frontline or small hands platform, and she covers stories of children in war, and she also works on reality platforms. Thank you for moderating this session. We at IGNet we provide material and fellowship in addition to tools on a daily basis to journalists, and we are a cross-border team. We provide all these in 8 languages, hence offering opportunities, fellowship grants to colleagues. Of course, our team is multi-linguistic, also with different nationalities. We have translations into 8 languages, and also at our international center, we also provide programs, and we are actually part of this center. And of course, we have different and more multinational teams that work to serve all journalists everywhere, and actually more than 1,600 journalists have benefited from more than 100 programs, and by God's will be providing even more next year. And our main purpose is to serve journalists and provide them with basic tools and materials so as to let them or enable them to produce articles for the sake of or the good of community. At the center, what recommendations do you make for journalists who aim at publishing or conducting cross-border reports? Well, actually, we have published on our website a series of material, and of course, our colleagues have participated in the production. And actually, the tool kit, in addition to the coverage of war, all this has been produced and published last year in order to help journalists protect themselves and cover during war, in addition to the ethics to abide by, etc. In terms of these special resources regarding cooperation between journalists, they include A to Z plan that allows journalists to know how to prepare and set a coordination plan within the team, in addition to the main items of the contracts, especially regarding freelancers and legal principles that journalists should be aware of for their self-protection. Of course, this material does include physical protection, in addition to the digital safety and resources regarding sources and data, and from where they can benefit in order to conduct investigation. Regarding cross-border cooperation, it's not something new, since most major issues following followed by journalists do include, for instance, illegal immigrant, illicit funds, and other cross-border issues. And here comes the main role or mission of journalists, i.e., to monitor and double check everything related to these topics. And this is how journalism is a cross-border mission. In addition, and all cooperating journalists can unify their skills and gather evidence, analyze data, so as to have outputs. In addition to starting, of course, a working plan, journalists, of course, would wonder how to get resources to start any idea. Of course, we have set a series of plans, for instance, and recommendations such as the daily follow-up of journalists of all news, in addition to organizations, including NGOs. So promises, conventions, their implementation, statements published on websites, in addition to the sequencing when talking about specific items, illicit items that are being smuggled from one country to another, in addition to comparison. In addition to how to coordinate teams, well, I will go a bit faster for the sake of time. Of course, coordinating teams is of utmost importance. All mission importance, all missions, everybody's missions and tasks should be clear. There should be a director of coordinator, in addition to an interpreter or translator, another journalist capable of analyzing financial data. Of course, skills and the languages are different because of existing, skills and different skills and languages. Here come the need to distribute in a very clear way all the roles, in addition to the drafting and publishing, and in this field, of course, journalists, it's very important for them to study very well the public, especially when reports would be published in different languages. Of course, when talking about the smuggling of illicit products from one country to another, of course, the drafting and the position of the journalist in the country of origin is different than the one in the destination country. And of course, once the report is done, thanks to close condemnation and cooperation in the international newsroom, we resort to other journalists in order to check, for instance, some documents. For instance, Ali in Syria might ask Hala from Lebanon to double check some information prior to the publishing process, in addition to a very important task to be entrusted to the legal representative, because he or she should be or double check about the privacy, and in order to avoid any violation of privacy, especially when it comes to confidential information and work. He or she, in addition to this, all editors or legal editors should double check other legal aspects, in addition to guaranteeing the right to reply before the publication and the post publication. Of course, it's not worthy that the publication or the publishing process should take place at the same time, because for the sake of a major impact, and of course protection of the journalists should be taken into consideration, especially that not the sole name of one journalist will be published, and in the post-publication period, any statements, any comments should be followed up, even on the social media, because there are sometimes hints or a threshold that could be, followed and would lead us to another topics that are relevant and of equal importance. So that was a general overview about the editing plan and the drafting. In addition to the digital safety of journalists, they should be quite well aware about it. In addition to some guidelines or guidance for journalists, for instance, to avoid using some terms, some specific terms, or repeating or using the same term for different things. For instance, the name of the mother in the mother country, the country of origin. It's important for the journalists to avoid mentioning such information. Also, it's also important to check the digital footprint in case data are stolen, in addition to Google links and mentioning the names of, relatives, colleagues, just in case he or she receives a threat, so the others would notified. Of course, this is quite in brief because we only have 30 minutes or a few minutes to share with you what's really important. And after this session, Hala and Ali will be delivering two training sessions on double checking war crimes and another one about open resources, in addition to advanced tools from 12 to well, you are all kindly invited to follow these trainings. Thank you so much, Sarah. Of course, all this information is available on the network. Ali, in addition to the practical aspect, you and Siraj, you have conducted many cross-border reports. So how journalists can do it in an effective and efficient way? Well, actually, as a matter of fact, the first time we heard about cross-border investigations, that was 10 years ago, more or less, after we participated in the Panama Paper, which was a new form of journalism. It was something new. It was a newcomer, and now we at Arij, we are here gathering to talk about cross-border journalism in a divided world, and of course, in addition to other resources and skills and knowledge that are relevant to investigations. And this is why cross-border investigations have become a core part of our job, journalistic work. In the first 2 days, I heard colleagues wondering how to work together, how to conduct investigations. And this is really one of the pillars to achieve our investigative work. According to our previous research, we used to look for deeply about main ideas and all the details of this topic. Well, once, along with Siraj, we used to work on the UN funding in Syria, and we noticed that 6 billion of US dollars were being granted to UN agencies in order to cover all the fees related to the refugees. And later on, after a deeper research, we found out that most of the beneficiaries were, of course, involved in violations that took place in Syria. And this is why we linked these sanctions, these to UN sanctions. And this is how we could have an approximative and preliminary estimation of the main reasons. This is why we need to conduct deep research to know the beginning and the end of any story. And of course, in Syria, that case did not end with the suppliers, but we could reach other parties to the story. And once that was done, we asked the OCCRP and our partners in media, Daraj Media, on how to continue or move forward with that investigation. And this is how we started searching for new partners. So to have this initiative of conducting a deep research is very important, in addition to calling upon all institutions to be open to one another. So the deep research is really important, and the more efforts we make, the better consequences we get from the beginning till the end. And of course, we should also identify the fields that could be covered by the investigation. Hala, you at Daraj Media, you found the documents, but at the same time, you contributed to investigations with other institutions. So to what extent such work is really important in cross-border investigative work? As you said, we as Arab platforms, we are not always the recipients. As Ali said, quite often we are the ones to launch initiatives, to pitch ideas from in international investigations. And one of the main outcomes of cross-border cooperation is to be able to conduct some accountability process, because unfortunately our work, despite all the efforts, is rather disappointing, because the judiciary is not completely independent, and this is why accountability is not always completely achieved. And this is why that was one of our main achievements, for instance, to have contributed investigations regarding the former governor of Central Bank of Lebanon, and our cooperation with OCCRP. We submitted our idea to them, and we started cooperating with them, and we conducted during 3 years at least 4 native work about the former governor of Central Bank of Lebanon. And then also with another organization, we found the new documents about the former governor of Central Bank of Lebanon, and this is how we could refute many of the arguments he used in the last few years. That was really a very positive experience, and this is how we could, motivate many international organizations to impose sanctions, and even the Interpol to issue decisions, and also memoranda with this regard. We also worked on Ericsson list and many other investigations. And as for the impact or accountability, were really essential. As Arish Daraj, we collaborated in the Ericsson, which allowed us to find out how the Swedish company used to pay some Iraqi parties. And actually, after our reports were published, the profit and the shares of this company decreased, the value decreased. And for instance, 528 families filed a lawsuit against Ericsson, with the accusation of fighting terror. However, unfortunately, we don't any kind of similar accountability in Iraq. However, we hope we will witness such thing soon. And another important project I would like to point out, it's Pegasus, which has been mentioned in some sessions here. Well, it was previously started by other humanitarian organizations. However, it did not have its momentum as when we started, started working on it. And this is how the Israeli Pegasus company was blacklisted. And this is how a series of investigations took place in addition to investigative other investigative collaborations. This is how other programs were revealed, and this is really generating further public awareness, not only among journalists, but on the public level, so as to be more aware of such companies in order to hold them responsible. Well, of course, you were fast, but that was really very important. Ali, with such titles, and in order to achieve, accountability, there are challenges. Could you please give us at least one example on how you overcame such challenges, and what would you recommend, and what tips would you give journalists to overcome such obstacles? Well, actually, with the Der Spiegel and the Lighthouse report, one of the investigations we worked on was when a boat with more than 150 refugees was drawn. Of course, the deadline was one of the major challenges with more than 3,000 documents and different regions in the sea, in refugees without any record, without any documents to document what happened. So there were several challenges regarding time and even accessing the information we were talking about regarding, for instance, the Greek government, which cancelled all the camera reports and prevented us from interviewing survivors and accessing court documentation. So time was the major challenge, but we could overcome all these challenges thanks to our cooperation with our partners, such as OCCRP and others in other projects. So we were distributing these tasks. Every team was being entrusted with a different task. Siraj was in charge or taking care of the victims, and others took care of other aspects. And this is really a key part, i.e. to distribute the tasks when talking about cross-border investigation, because we are living in a fast world and we need, of course, to fast publish any stories. And this is how we could overcome most of the challenges regarding accessing information, and even in personal private investigations regarding mainly digital security, and also accessing information and also by networking and having partnerships with other institutions and also another article that was previously published has been republished in more than media in 24 countries. And so these were the challenges, and despite it all, we saw a direct, clear impact that was tangible thanks to cross-border investigations, despite all the challenges and all problematic issues. And however, despite it all, and at least we could have impact and sustain.
As media outlet, new media outlets, we're only 2 years old. We're working with international teams that are producing from tens of years now. They have specialized teams. Some of the teams are 7 to 10 journalists, but we have only 2. These are the challenges with the presence of specialized people who can analyze these documents or provide these data as a story to our audience. But we were able to overcome these challenges when we were able to work on these reporting that had impact. This is a very important point. You said about the media outlets as journalists working in that kind of reporting. What is the benefit from that work, working in a group? Let me tell you that our main objectives as investigative journalists is accountability. Whether we are looking for publishing an investigation or revealing a violation, our basic objective is accountability, which is absent in our country. Let me give you an example. We worked in an investigative report with the Telegraph. It's about who were the Syrian who were ready to die for Putin. It was about companies that recruit Syrians to fight in Ukraine with the Russian army. 2 months after the publishing, U.S. imposed sanctions on these companies. That's why we can see the impact directly. The basic objective is to create change and to have change and impact. This is the main objective as journalists. Any report that we write, we look for accountability, change, and to create something accountability. And we can see that these investigative report, cross-border investigative report, they have a huge compact in these 3 points: accountability, to impose direct penalties for these companies by and then keeping them from committing these violations, also create change and expose these violations is a basic part of our work of accountability. How can we expose these violations? So when the journalist is able to work on this story, he is able to expose these violations and at least stop this violation. One last point is the provide an international platform that can convey the story of the journalist in an outlet reach. We have international outlets that have access to international audience that can at least work with us, also create a change and share accountability that we are working on, all of us. Thank you, Ali Hala. You are in, you mentioned headlines. What are these flashing? What are these investigations given to Daraj when the journalist is part of these investigations? Is there any protection provided for these journalists? Because these are critical issues. This collaboration for journalists, we start with the data, huge data that are not provided by us, especially that the access to information is really weak. This gives you a lot of data, information, and documents from outside countries. This is essential to us. They give a protection. Yeah, sometimes they give some protection when I am a part of a network, of a huge network. This really make it hard to others to target you. We can see that also within the right of reply. When we are working on personalities in Lebanon and the Arabic word, we send them the right to answer. But when she sent the right to reply with the name of the network, they are lawyer would reply because the sense of accountability is higher with them. I think these projects also are safe platforms. When we used to work with the ICIJ, we know that has a specific space where to have the documents we can work on also and with other organizations. I'm mentioning these three because we work with them. This is give you the huge access for information with a safe and secure way. They also give us trainings for cybersecurity before you get into the project so that you be ready. Also, some important thing is that there are so many people working on a specific project. There's a change in numbers what people are working. You have but this kind of challenge gives you a highest for your potential. This is really promotes our cooperation. There's important point in cross-border projects. You can reduce the cost of producing these investigative reports. And it's really important that we should develop this huge investigative report or products. These are all, we are not paid for it from these products. We are part of it and we're proud of it. And it's funded by Daraj completely. This is really important. We are not taking a financial paid, but sometimes we pay for other journalists. It's part of our mission. And I want to say also that in addition, we can provide training for journalists about cross-border investigations. Our network has continuous training and find resources. We give new skills and raise the knowledge in this kind of investigation, cross-border investigation. Accordingly, as outlets, we are interested not only in production and supporting the productions of this reporting, but also in training any other media outlet that are willing to come into this subject because they know they need specific skills and knowledge. There's also the International Journalist Network. You have also a lot of resources. As journalists, we can benefit. Thank you, Ali. Omni, please, or an advice anyone can give you in 10 seconds. Sarah, please. Thank you, Hadil. Thank you for my colleagues for this session. I'd like to say how important is it to for physical protection for journalists and cybersecurity. It's really important for journalists to learn before they begin any kind of cooperation, whether it's investigative, domestic, or cross-border cooperation. You can resort to International Journalist Network regarding any cross-border collaboration, as I mentioned at the beginning, about work coverage. And we distributed recently a bunch of tools about combating misinformation. And we are looking to toolkits, to issue a new toolkit. We will be announced in the coming new days. Will be announced on our platforms. I also call upon you to attend our training workshops with Ali and Hala that last from 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. They will be more in detail. I'd like to thank all our audience here, all journalists who are interested and gave us our time and joined us in this session. Hopefully, in this short time, we were able to provide a glimpse about the group of resources in our network, and also by the practical examples with Ali and Hala. Thank you all. Thank you, Sarah, Hala, Ali. Absolutely, it's really essential to conclude the importance of cross-border investigation. We can share the risk after the report is published. As outlets and as persons, we are threats. And when we have international outlets, at least a team that's consisting of 20 or 25 journalists so the risk is much less, will not be directly targeted to the essential importance of the cross-border investigations. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for our audience.